South Carolina coming in at 6th. Again, year 5 of Will Muschamp. Not what people wanted to see when he was hired. Not what I would have expected. Just talk about why you slotted South Carolina there. Your overall projections, first off, in the SEC East, but how you see South Carolina fitting in, why you picked them in that 6th spot.
Yeah, it's funny, Chris. I lock in for 6 months from December till June, writing this thing, researching, finding every fact I can. It's complex. But anyway, what I try and do is kind of shield off from the outside world, all the other opinions and picks. That's not because I'm, whatever you want to call it, selfish. I just don't want to cloud my judgment. I want to get my thing published, and then I spend all summer reading the other ones too. Don't get me wrong. So, but yeah, so I thought I had a gem here with Florida. I thought, man, I have, it's Dan Mullen's 3rd year. Todd Grantham's 3rd year. The thing with Florida that really stood out to me is they've always had this top 5 defense nationally. I mean, you see it every year on NFL Draft Day. They're DBU. They're in that conversation. They're recruiting, top 5 and top 10 classes. The defense has always been there. That's not going to change. But finally, the offense is starting to click, and they finally have a proven quarterback guru with Mullen. He did it at Utah with Alex Smith. He did it at Mississippi State with Dak Prescott. He even did it here in Gainesville 10 years ago with Chris Leak and Tim Tebow, rotating them around like a genius. So finally, what stuck out was, finally they have the offense to match it. I think it's a complete team. Kyle Trask could be the best in the conference there. A ton of weapons at receiver and tight end. So, I went with Florida. They also missed Alabama in the crossover game, which Georgia has to handle. And with Georgia, there's a ton to like with Georgia. I'm not going to lie. It's probably one of the best defenses in the country. Could be a top 3 unit. I think 10 starters back or 9 starters back from a really great defense last year. My issue with them is the offense, kind of like we touched on, trying to install a new offense in a short offseason. I like the hire. I think that maybe in a few years it'll start clicking. They brought in Todd Monken. He wants to go more vertical pass game. Think of Oklahoma State back in the early 2010s, Brandon Whedon. That's what he was the coordinator there. And I mean, after I published this, they just got JT Daniels immediate eligibility. That might have factored in because I think now they have some stable quarterback play.
Yep.
But so you see a pretty decent drop off from Florida, Georgia as playoff contenders down to Tennessee and Kentucky. I'm actually pretty high on both. I have them Tennessee 3rd, Kentucky 4th in the division, both in the top 25. What really stands out to me for both is their offensive lines. Kentucky's 4th in my national offensive line ranks, Tennessee 5th. I mean, these are, there's all-American candidates all over their lines. That's the difference between Tennessee and their past teams where, they always had the hype on signing day with Butch Jones and he's all over the ESPN signing day special, doing brick by brick or whatever it was called. And it didn't pan out. But the difference being with Jeremy Pruitt, you saw what he's done at Alabama, those title teams in, I think 15 and those playoff teams in 16 and 17, great coordinator. You're seeing it on defense start to click. But finally on offense, it's actually some strength at offensive line. It was a weakness for probably 10 years. But finally, the offensive line's a strength. They're going to get a power run game back, and I like it. Kentucky, similar deal. It's just kind of an under-the-radar program. Nationally, no one really covering them. Very strong in the trenches on both sides of the ball, and they're strong enough to kind of grind out 8 wins a year. So they're steady there. They also get their quarterback back, Terry Wilson. If you watched any Kentucky last year, they were basically running a high school Wildcat offense there with Lynn Bowden. And to the credit, it worked. I mean, it was incredible. But so I think a more complete team, a more sound team there. And then it really came down to a 5 and 6 debate between Missouri and Carolina. I mean, I could really make the case for either. But when I really had to dig deep and make a choice, I looked at the cross-division schedule, and it's almost a 2-game advantage that Missouri draws. Well, where Carolina has to play top 10 A&M and top 10 LSU, Missouri draws 2 teams with coaching changes, and with Arkansas, who's one of the worst in Power 5, and Mississippi State, who's trying to install Mike Leach's air raid in no offseason. So almost a 2-game head start. It's not even an indictment on Carolina. It's just that with the schedule this year, I give Mizzou a nod there, a 5th.